This is a regular scheduled meeting for the Dearborn Public School Board of Education. It's August 24th, 2020, 7 p.m. I think we're very close to 7 p.m. This is a virtual and an in-person board meeting. Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Mary Lane is here. Is Roxanne McDonald here?
Here.
Michael Mead?
Here.
Adil Moseb?
Here.
Mary Petchlikoff?
Here.
James Thorpe?
Here.
President Hussein Berry.
Here, thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Ms. Hannah Al-Fassi, Fordson student, will lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United
States
States
of
of America and to
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and
and justice for all.
Thank you, Hannah. Appreciate you. Next item, please.
Superintendent's updates, moment of silence.
So, good evening, everyone. We've done this at every board meeting since the pandemic, and so I think it's just appropriate we do that. We know the country's suffering, many people, and so just a moment of silence to observe those, and our thoughts and prayers are with all the families who are suffering and may have lost a loved one. Thank you.
Next item, please.
Next item are the agenda items of retirements.
So we have seen some retirements that came in, and again, we want to thank our retirees and congratulate them, and we do wish them all the best. We know that a lot of them are going out on some difficult terms right now with the COVID, but we want to thank them for their years of service in the district. So we have Myra Jones, 18 years of service. Tracy Lake Kennard, 18 years. Sandra Bond, 27 years. Elizabeth Ellis, over 18 years. Sharon Hawk, 27 years of service. Kathy Muth, over 19. I worked with her at Duval for a couple of years. Gada Sala, over 24 years. Sharon Shaw, over 21 years. And Gloria Witt, over 20 years of service. Again, we thank them and congratulate them for their service. If we can give them a round of applause.
We can go on to the next item, please.
Non-agenda items, COVID-19 update.
Okay, Mr. President, I'll just go down the
Just go
list.
through it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll go right
Appreciate it.
through it. So just, we all know, and we've been monitoring the numbers with the situation with the COVID, and we have Nurse Khan, Nurse Candace, and our entire team under our plan is constantly monitoring the situation around and in the local area as we prepare for returning to school, albeit virtually to start. And so we wanted everyone to know that that's very important. And as you see, we're also modeling the proper behavior. And just to remind people that, wearing the masks, I'm allowed to take it off when I'm speaking in the microphone, but you can see we have them on. When we're in the building, we wear the mask, we're social distancing, and, we're doing our part to help, because what we do want is eventually to have in-person instruction. We know that's best for students. But in order to do that, we have to keep the numbers down within the community. So it's very important that everyone plays their part, just as we are. And I also want to mention that we're developing training for staff. So all staff is going to go through COVID-19 training. It'll be an online module they'll go through. And we're also planning training for students for when they actually do return. And that'll include training for students when they go into learning labs. So those are the updates on the COVID. As far as the reopening plan, appreciate the support of the board, and again, thank President Cavalluna for using this college board meeting to get the plan approved and passed. As we mentioned, we had 5.5-hour meeting on August 6th, and we had many public comments. We've taken this very seriously. We've been working very hard. Just to recap, we've had a huge committee that started way back in May and continues to do work, and they're still intact. If needed, we're going to consult with the group, and we appreciate everyone involved there. So this week, we're starting with professional development for the teachers. We start on Thursday and Friday. One of the big things is going to be Schoology that the board approved on August 6th. So we're changing over our entire platform for online learning. We're very excited about that. We also know that there's going to be some learning curves. So we're going to do our best, but people are going to have to be a little patient with us. And that's why we modified the first week of schedule where we have half days when the students start officially on August 31. Want to let parents know that not to get too overwhelmed with it and too worried about things, because we plan it as kind of an orientation phase-in over the first couple of weeks. So if you don't have every single thing right away to start on Monday, it's okay, and that's why we're doing the half-day soft start. It was planned deliberately so that we can ease students into it. And the other advantage is, and we appreciate Jane Maz and the union working with us on this, and Dave Higgins, we're allowed to provide more training for staff. So we have 4 half days of training for them that week as well to help with Schoology, Zoom, and other things that we may need. The Learning Labs, we're planning to start on September 21. I'm still in conversations with President Mazza, the DFT, to kind of work out some of the details. But under Ms. Farage and our entire team, Ms. Peterson, Mr. Asaley, Dr. Chokol, and Shannon Peterson, we've been working very hard at getting that model going. Again, we're going to do a phase-in as well. We don't want to start with big numbers of people coming in. What we want to do is phase in and make people comfortable. We also will have Mr. Asaley and Ms. Roselle Dubailey reaching out to students that are in special ed, ELL, or students that may need support that we may recommend. Again, Learning Labs, though, will be totally optional. So if a parent chooses that they don't want to bring a student into the Learning Lab, that is okay as well. But we do think it's important that we have some of the in-person schooling for students that really have those needs. And parents can also request it. Now, these will be sessions, so it doesn't mean it'll be a full day. These will be hours, potentially hour, 2-hour type sessions. Virtual learning. So we offer that option for our families. As you're aware, we had close to, I believe, about 5,000 people enroll. We've had some since then unenrolling or asking to be included. So it also creates a huge change in staffing. Thankfully, because of our staff, we've been able to get a lot to voluntarily agree to go into the program. So we do have to churn off by tomorrow. We will no longer be able to accept in-district people that want to choose the virtual learning. We will put you on the waiting list. And the reason we have to do that is because we have to have our staff ready. Now, if someone comes from out of the district, it'll be okay, you can enroll because they're out of the district enrollment. Now, even if you're on the waiting list, we're going to do our best, but the reason we have to kind of put a cutoff date is because we just wouldn't be able to match up with our staffing model as we're moving staff around. So we are still working to hopefully fill that voluntarily with all staff. I spoke to President Barry today and Jane Maz, and we're trying to get that moving. But we may have to make a decision at some point to reassign some staff into the model. So just to be frank with everyone, when you're dealing with that number of students, that is necessary. Now, that would be in the elementary. In the secondary level, we think we have a smooth process with the classes, but at the elementary, we're going to have specific teachers for the virtual learning opportunity. So I just wanted to put that out there and just clarify again for parents, because I know we're hearing it, that if you choose this option, you're saying that you want to be in the virtual learning all year, so you're guaranteed. Now, again, we'll try to work with you if something happens during the year and you change your mind. But having said that, if the district decides, because now under the new legislation, we have to make a decision every month as to what the type of instruction is. So we could make that decision based on the numbers. Let's just say, hypothetically, in October, whatever it is, that we're having in person. This option gives parents that are not comfortable sending their child in person for any amount of time that comfort in that option. It'll be the same curriculum. It's our teachers. It's using Schoology. It's the Dearborn curriculum in the virtual option. So to jump into the legislation, the government, oh, sorry.
Move on.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Virtual
Yeah,
learning.
I have a,
Just, go
I have
ahead.
a quick question.
Go ahead.
You
Let's
mentioned,
go.
you mentioned, Dr. Maleko, you mentioned if they were coming from out of district, you would put them in. What do you mean by that? We're not accepting out of district students into the virtual learning.
Well, it would be,
Program.
sorry, I may have misspoke then. What I meant is that if a student that is not currently, I should have said it this way, a student that is not currently
Who moved
enrolled
into the district?
in our district, but they live in the district and they can legally attend, because you have some that are in the private schools and the
Okay.
charter schools. So we would still accept them, and we have to by law accept them. But, so when I said
Right,
out of
but they're
district,
not
I
out of
should have said
district.
not enrolled and currently enrolled. I framed that wrong. So thank you for
Okay.
clarifying that.
Trustee Lane?
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Maleko, I assume that at some point on the webpage, there will be a breakout or a schedule for learning labs and people can sign up? Or is there somewhere else they should go?
It's going to be handled at the school level. So the schools will be handling
Oh,
the
okay.
learning lab signups because it'll be their teachers that are going to be implementing it. So it'll all be based on school sign up. Again, most of it is going to be recommended by teachers and especially in the special education area, English language learning area. But they can also request then with their teacher as well. So what they need to do, and that's why we're not starting it right away, we're phasing it in. If a parent really wanted, was involved, for example, in an elementary school or even high school, contact your teacher, contact your school. Right now, we are still working through that process of trying to finalize all the requirements within the labs, and that's why we're not starting right away. So people will have to be patient because it's not until September 21, so there is some time right now before the Learning Lab. We'll have another board meeting prior to starting the Learning Lab where we can get more information. And I might as well just mention it right now. We are going to do a Facebook Live show for the district on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock that I'll be there with David, and we'll have some of our staff, including Mr. Asaley from Special Ed and others, to answer questions for parents.
I'm glad you clarified that, because, yeah, like most of my colleagues, out of district.
Yeah, sorry, I framed it wrong.
You know, a perfect example was, I spoke to somebody over the weekend, son and daughter is in private school. They live in Dearborn. They called and said, tell me about this virtual academy. So I explained to them to the best of my knowledge, and they said, what's stopping me from registering my students in Dearborn Public Schools and have them attend the school? I said, absolutely nothing. You live in the district, you're paying
Sure.
taxes in the district. And they came in today. They came into Student Services, registered, brought in the paperwork, so that's what you were referring to.
That's what I meant. I
Yes.
just framed it.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So I appreciate you
Great.
guys all
So
clarifying.
nice catch,
that.
Mary. Trustee Petrikov, nice catch. Go ahead, please continue then.
I was moving along quickly with my comments, so
Okay.
appreciate that. And again, if a student also moved into the area during the year, then they would be eligible
course,
to
of
attend.
course.
So that's why, I guess to clarify, what we were trying to say is currently enrolled students, we're cutting it off tomorrow because we have to, they're part of our student population, and we just need to plan for that, so.
Of course, thank you.
Okay.
Legislation.
Okay, so legislation, yes. So the legislation was just passed by, there was an agreement. It moved very quickly. Want to thank Representative Hammoud and Senator Santana, who supported a lot of our positions because there was not necessarily agreement out there with it, but bottom line is we do have legislation. It's passed, and so what it does mean is that it gives us flexibility for hours and days for, funding purposes. It also puts certain requirements on attendance, which you can count online learning. So now, when we had this plan, we were going out until, we had the ability to do it until September 30th. And now we have the ability to extend it. But the Board of Education must make a decision. So at every meeting for the rest of the year, we must, by the current law, put on the agenda for an action item what we want to do with our current learning plan. So if, for example, we wanted to make a decision to continue to extend the learning plan into October, by the September board meeting, we'll have to make that decision. If we wanted to make a decision to bring back some kind of hybrid or in-person, we would have to make the decision. We also will have guidance from the Wayne County Health Department, which is in the legislation, so you'll get recommendations when you look at numbers out in the community. Ultimately, it is the district's decision, and so we'll have to monitor the data. I would think that we also want to see how our learning labs and other things go, but we will have to make that decision as soon as September, so it's coming quickly. And that is every 30 days they require it. So we would have to extend that into October, and then at the October meeting, we would have to make a decision into November.
Trustee McDonald?
Oh, I had a question. I'm assuming that the flexibility that they're giving us does, although we have to say which method of learning we're using at each board meeting, if some circumstances were to come beyond a board meeting that we needed to change that, I'm assuming that if flexibility allows us to do that as well.
We can change it. We just have to make a decision every 30 days. So obviously, we could always call another meeting if something happened. But it is action of the
Okay.
board that ultimately makes that decision. Now, the board could, I believe, and I'll have to look into it, but just like, I mean, you could give us options too. Plan 2 had a hybrid and an online, so you can look at those kind of situations. But ultimately, the board does have to make that decision based on recommendations that I'd be bringing forward every month. And so we will have to have some people talking about it from our administration as to, it may be the nurses along with our instructional faculty, Ms. Faraj or Ms. Mesa Malibazi.
That's the way I understood it.
Well, my
is-
thought is that if we had decided to go ahead with face-to-face learning, voted at it in a meeting, and say by the end of the month or whatever, before the next meeting were to happen, we had an outbreak or some reason that we needed to pull back on that decision, then what we would need to do is just call an emergency meeting to do that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe that's what we would have to do, because it is action of the board that has to take place to make that decision.
Of course.
I would think too that obviously
Okay,
if
thank you.
something really happened, I have the authority obviously to make a closure or another decision in an absolute emergency. I'd be talking to the board president.
Sure. Trustee Thorpe?
So just
Okay.
to confirm, what we're saying is that we have to vote each month for the following month.
Correct. It requires every 30 days, so it's a 30-day window. So I'll have to get the actual time on the schedule, but I believe it is within a 30-day window, there has to be a decision for the next 30 days. So I think technically you'd be, because of the law, you're going to have to make that decision, the September board meeting to the October board meeting, because that's the 30-day span.
Okay, so you're thinking it goes from board meeting
Yeah,
to board meeting? but-
Yeah, because I
so-
believe it's every 30 days we have to make a decision, but I'll get clarification on that.
Okay,
As I said,
Let's
this,
go ahead and get a clarification. What I'm assuming is at the September 14th meeting, we will be, we'll see how things get started and what's going on. We'll look at the information, we'll listen to what the governor's saying, what's, information come from the county. And at that point, we'll probably extend to the end of October. Now, I understand what trustee McDonald's saying. What if something happens in between? Obviously, the superintendent will make those decisions
but that's where that clarification would come in as well.
100%.
That we're not making a decision today that would go into effect 2 or 3 weeks later when the situation may have easily changed.
Correct.
The second question I had is, even if we don't make any change with our learning plan, we still need to approve it. So the approval could just be, nothing's changing for the next month.
Correct.
sure,
It's just,
Yeah.
we're just reconfirming it.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trustee Moses?
Yeah, I have a question about the enrollment. I believe that we said last Monday was a deadline, but I know we're being
We tried to
very
work with the
flexible with
families,
families, but how are they able to opt in if they're not able to opt in online since the forum closed?
So when we close the form, it's through the school. So we've been putting out there that if they need to get into, they would have to go through their school directly. We've had the principals and secretaries in the buildings,
Okay,
because then we can explain it to them. We had to close the online system because at some point we had to cut it off. So that's why initially we said, okay, when we opened it on the 17th, when we closed it on the 17th, we did say we would still try to accept enrollment. We were able to accommodate everyone up until tomorrow, so they have to contact their school.
okay, sounds good.
And I'm aware of a few families that reached out to the administrators, and that's working fine, nice, smooth. Yeah, close. Okay, if there's nothing else, continue, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, the other thing that I just have to mention, my last, under other, I just wanted to mention, and I mentioned this to President Berry, we had our Wayne County meeting on Friday, and I gotta tell you, all the associations we're a part of are trying to work together to really, it's very helpful when you know your colleagues from other districts, so I meet at a lot of the organizations. But on a separate topic, they are monitoring what'll happen for the November election. The Wayne County Enhancement Millage is going to be on the ballot. Now, we were not involved per se in that decision. We didn't take a position as this school board. As after we just went through the bond, we felt like we needed to just kind of be neutral in it right now, but I will say that it does give a benefit to the district by $7 million in our budget. So although the county, had enough support to put it on the ballot, we were not involved in that process, and they were understanding, they understand our situation. It does benefit our budget, and so if we're still good for 2 more years, and the reason why they're putting on the ballot now is because they're only allowed to put it during every 2 year on the general election. That's the only year the county can put on the ballot. So they needed to do it in advance. So even if it wasn't passed, we would still have a couple more years of the budget. But after that, 2 years down the road, following the election, then we would lose the $7 million each year. So I just wanted, for the public, just to clarify, some of the things that we've put on there, including class size reduction. We've used money for playgrounds. One of the big purchases we used it for was the Dearborn High expansion, so we used that budget rather than, any other loans or other things. So we've been very responsible with it. It's kept our elementary class size down, so it's helped supplement that. And we've also used it for other support staff during the years. For example, some of our early childhood specialists and some of our social workers from time to time, although we have then moved some of that money around. So it's been a benefit to the district. It will be on the ballot November 3rd, and obviously we can provide more information, but it was a Wayne County Reese's decision to do that. Thank you.
All set?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is recognition and acknowledgements, commendations. Are there any commendations?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are 2 commendations tonight. Our first commendation goes to 9 of our food service workers who were recently recognized by the state for reaching 25 years of service in preparing healthy and nutritious meals for students. Those being recognized include Beth Isaacs, Christina Jaskolowski, Diane Munich, Jacqueline Stazel, Nina Rizzo, Pam DeTone, Tamara Radakovich, Virginia Pascaris, and Wendy Gatens. We also have commendations to trustee Roxanne McDonald. The Michigan Association of School Boards recently honored her with a Master Board Member Award for her work in completing board member development courses. So we want to thank Roxanne, trustee McDonald, for that accomplishment, and appreciate all the hard work
Yeah,
and
why not? Let's do a.
dedication.
Yeah, why not? Good job, Roxanne.
Thank you, everyone.
Acknowledging donations,
Yeah, and that's David as well.
We have 1 donation this evening, and it's obviously very timely and something that will definitely come in handy. It's a donation of 30,000 disposable masks. It has been offered to the Dearborn Public Schools by Mr. Mike Mushanish and the Detroit Axle team, and those will be used throughout our district as needed. Thank you all.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Approval of minutes of the following Dearborn Board of Education meetings, executive session, closed negotiation property, July 20th, 2020, board report 20-07, regular P12 meeting, July 20, 2020, board report 20-08, study session, August 6, 2020, board report 20-09. Make any necessary correction and move approval of these minutes.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion moved by trustee Thorpe, supported by trustee Adelmozab. Are there any comments or corrections? Hearing none, seeing none. Can we have a roll call, Madam Secretary?
Roxanne.
Trustee McDonald, please.
President. Yeah, I just wanted to add one addition, actually. If it's on the study session minutes, page 6, the second paragraph, I had made a comment about the governor's multi-state consortium, and I talked about, or I asked the question to the nurses, if these methods would be coming to Wayne County, but it doesn't clarify what methods I'm talking about. So I just wanted to add in there that I was talking about point of care testing and pool testing. That just needed some clarification.
Okay, great, thank you.
I remember that also.
Great, thank you. Looking around, there aren't any more. Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Lane, yes. McDonald? Mead?
Yes.
Moses?
Yes.
Petlicoff?
Yes,
Thorpe?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes, thank you. Please attach a unanimous roll call vote in the affirmative. Next item, please.
Special reports, trauma-informed schooling, Ms. Zainab Al-Ghanem, Ms. Hannah Al-Fassi, Dr. Violet Sweden.
And I think we'll let them go on the, they contacted myself for this session, so I'll let them, I think they're online virtually, and I'll let them go ahead, and I know the board has their presentation, so.
I believe there's a third student with us. Zainab, is that correct?
Yes, hello, my name is Jude.
Okay, thank you very much. Just wanted to make
Hi.
sure. You gonna let her go ahead and get started?
Yeah.
Would the board be presenting it, or would I have to present it?
Zainab, go ahead and get started then.
Okay. 1 second, please.
And the board has your we have your PowerPoint in the folder.
Oh, okay,
But, I
okay,
mean,
so
yeah,
I
it's
don't
great
have
if
to
you
share, or
display
would you guys? Okay. Right, this way. I don't know how it looks like. Sorry, this is a little bit difficult.
We can see your presentation, Zainab.
Okay. Oops. Okay, is it present now?
Yes.
Yes, you're good.
Okay, perfect. 1 second, please. Just have to pull up something and I'll be all set. Okay. Hello, my name is Zainab Al-Ghanem.
Hello, I'm Jude Altai,
And I'm Hannah Alfasi.
and we are here today to talk to you about one of the most pressing concerns in regards to the children in our society.
As a team, we have been working tirelessly to bring awareness to mental health decline in this generation. Hannah and I both served on the SEL subcommittee, and we are here to build upon what we all agreed on from there.
We will be going over our purpose, the problem, and our solution to create a safe and beneficial school environment.
My friend Jude and I have been working since the beginning of the school year about this issue, and we care because we have had our own issues dealing with mental health and have not had the proper support to deal with it. Teachers notice the change in our behavior, but they themselves are limited in their own response. We need to do better for our students, our parents, our staff, and our community.
As a student who gets to go through 6 classrooms in 7 hours, in those transitions between classes, we go through different classroom environments. Classroom environments, not just the physical, play a role in student achievement. As a student, if I feel comfortable, I'm way more likely to thrive.
I have always felt like I didn't receive the right protocol when dealing with mental health at school. I also know a lot of my friends that deal with these struggles on a day-to-day basis that interferes with their academics. I just want to go to a school where everyone feels like they belong, and I know that a support system is behind them when they need help.
Our objective is to create a trauma-informed school in which administrators recognize and respond to students who need mental health help, essentially promoting more awareness and resources to those affected by mental health.
The school supports all students to feel safe physically, socially, emotionally, and academically.
Mental health is a controversial topic in our community, and it refers to the well-being of the mind. The ability to cope with stress, a person's emotional state, including trauma such as PTSD, a person's ability to reason and make good, healthy decisions, and overall psychological well-being.
In order to create a nurturing environment, we must create a trauma-sensitive school in which the school addresses students' needs in holistic ways, taking into account their relationships, self-regulation, academic competence, and physical and emotional health and well-being. The school explicitly connects students to the school community and provides multiple opportunities to practice newly developing skills. The school embraces teamwork, and staff share responsibility for all students. Leadership and staff anticipate and adapt to the ever-changing needs of students and the surrounding community.
COVID-19 has heavily impacted the mental state of most students who previously relied on social interactions and now feel isolated. Anxiety and stress in most households can lead to depression, and an increase in domestic abuse is being reported.
1 in 15 homes are exposed to intimate partner violence each year, and 90% of these children are eyewitnesses to this violence, as reported by the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
The University of Macau in China insists the general public is under insurmountable psychological pressure, which may lead to various psychological problems such as anxiety, fear, depression, and insomnia.
During this time, though it is important to focus energy on providing economical relief and ensuring everyone has access to the education they deserve, it is just as important to focus on students' mental health.
Mental health is usually given attention in most times the most urgent circumstances. However, that is not the case for everyone. Who is dealing with mental health issues?
Refugees are coming to our schools with trauma of war from nations like Syria, Yemen, and Iraq, as well as students who feel pressure to perform well in school, experiencing chronic anxiety, leaving them paralyzed to their own mental health state, and students who are dealing with mental health issues but have not been diagnosed due to inadequate or lack of services to youth. Students who grew up in poverty or death of a loved one and have experienced trauma as a result. And literally anyone. Mental health does not discriminate and it knows no boundaries.
A federal emergency hotline for people in emotional distress registered a more than 1,000% increase in April compared with the same time last year. The psychological effects of quarantine alone included heightened risk of stress, irritability, insomnia, and depression, all factors that correlate with suicide, said Dr. Catherine Frank, who is the chair of the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Health at the Henry Ford Health System. It is a huge problem that has been pushed to the side for far too long, and now we cannot neglect it any further, because if we do, the consequences will be dire.
The student-to-counselor ratio at Fortson High School is 420 students to 1 counselor. However, the MDE recommendation, a student-to-counselor ratio is 250 students to 1 counselor.
This is significant because this can lead to impersonal relationship between counselors and students, which can make it difficult for students to reach out for help. Counselors are overbooked dealing with scheduling students and testing, leaving no room for students' mental health.
Mental health illness in half the population starts to become more prevalent around the age of a freshman in high school. Catching early signs of mental illness is important because early treatment may also lessen long-term disability and prevent years of suffering.
Results showed that mental health was a significant predictor of future academic performance, and that overall, students whose mental health improved between 1st and 3rd grade made better academic progress than students whose mental health did not improve or worsen.
This is an investment for our school district. In order to illustrate the immediate attention needing to be showcased, we conducted an anonymous assessment of students' mental health in regards to their well-being.
"135 responses were reviewed of a random sample of students in all grade levels, and in that poll, we have noticed some trends.
The answer to the question, what are your hobbies? The highest response was hang out with friends. Mental health declines when the number of social environment declines or are eliminated completely. Quote, when we communicate with people face to face, it can help to make us more resilient to stress factors in the long run, unquote.
The majority of students would like to go back to school in the fall. However, it is not for the reasons you may think. A student shared that because being at home that is emotionally exhausting. No one knows what goes on at home, and if we're at school, it makes it easier for us to avoid our family. Another student replied, I miss normal social interaction. This pandemic has taken away what normal is for me. Our classrooms would be the same and we would discuss thematic or societal issues, but now it's all bottled in.
However, 25% is also not for the reason you may think. A student said they don't want to return because they have cried less and felt better about being away from toxic people. And almost all of those who said no claim that they have mental health conditions that would prevent them from returning to school, even going as far to say the reason behind this was because of anxiety, major depressive disorder, and ADHD.
Students were given a chance to share their thoughts and personal stories at the end of the survey. We will share the ones that resonated with us the most. One that impacted me was, I have never been mentally okay and the school systems do not care at all and they never have. They treat every student as if there's nothing going on in their lives other than school, as if every student has the mental capacity to perform the best they can.
Trigger warnings, mentions of suicide. I once told a social worker that one of my Link Crew freshmen was severely depressed, and the student showed me pages and pages of negativity that she has written, mostly suicide, and the social worker said she seemed okay. She's severely at risk, and it doesn't make sense to look over something like this.
I know someone who died from COVID-19. I want to feel safe.
As students, we know that you have been addressing the topic of social emotional learning through the strategic plan. Although this has been improved in the staff level, we would like to talk to you about how the youth believe this can be improved on the student level based on the plan.
The district's promise is to increase career readiness through the career development education. However, in the US, people with mental illness are 2 to 3 times more likely to be unemployed, and their employment rate is 15 percentage points lower than those without any mental health problems. They are also more likely to call in sick, often for longer periods, and to underperform at work, based on the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Not knowing how to deal with social aspects of a job is difficult for a person. Maybe even now, where positions are social, they need to know how to depend on themselves. It isn't just career readiness now, we need to prepare our students for it. It is in the future, where people would need mental health preparedness and tools to be successful in career. For example, what happens when you're too stressed out, when someone takes credit for your work, or when you can't find the motivation to get up in the morning, which a lot of students can relate to now. Another promise is to incorporate SEL activities at each level, and a piece of evidence for that is being Care to Core. Care to Core is less than 1 hour in one day that not all students get to experience. The American Psychological Association agreed that a person needs sufficient amount of treatment before their mental health could be improved. That 1 hour, that hour in one day is not enough evidence to prove that SEL is being incorporated effectively. Another promise is to implement behavioral intervention strategies at each building, with evidence being attendance and discipline records, specifically reduction in truancy and suspension rates. Almost all of these issues discussed are emotional issues. As in the case of attendance, the British Journal of Psychiatry links lack of attendance to poor mental health. In students' cases, we audit students who have 10 or more absences, further enforcing consequences rather than positive enforcement. Continuing the cycle of punishment, there is no surprise considering that the 3 largest psychiatric institutions in the US are jails, turning students to the punishment pipelines.
After a traumatic experience I endured, I was said to be fine because of my good grades by a school social worker. We are punitizing bad behavior rather than acknowledging the root cause and silencing high-functioning students. The economy has become relatively stable over the years, allowing more flexibility to administer incentives and job benefits to employees. 88% of employees reported overall job satisfaction in the US. And one of the top 5 contributors of employee job satisfaction is opportunities to use your skills and abilities in your work. However, counselors are currently sitting on their education and mental health, and instead taking on the task of sorting students into classes. The evidence for that is to promote surveys. However, that is not living up to its potential. Simply asking a question and ignoring the answer is not only ignorant but dangerous. According to MDE, staff models a healthy schooling climate, including social, emotional, and physical health that is desired for students. Schools are supposed to take in the emotional health of students, yet 135 respondents of a survey unanimously agree that there should be more mental health resources in school. The executive director in a school is responsible to provide leadership, achieve school board goals, and administer academic programs. They set the highest standards of excellence in operating systems and educational programs. However, as a student of one of the Dearborn public schools, I feel the MDE SIP activities are close to non-existent and certainly ineffective. Creating a mental health program seems like the only initiative worthwhile. The Michigan School Improvement Framework mentions a lot of interesting ideas, such as communication between teachers and administrators, teachers and teachers, administrators and teachers with members of the community. What it does not mention is the actual needs of students. Giving out surveys and yet doing nothing about the results. It's more of a test given to students by unwilling teachers.
In the focus of stakeholder engagement, a goal of the district is to increase parental involvement in school through a strengthened homeschool connection. We could do that by sending out surveys to parents, as Livonia Public Schools did, asking parents if they think their student needs more mental health help or resources. Students whose parents were involved with their school have a link to better grades and better mental health. A lack of perceived parental involvement appears to have the opposite effect on students with poorer grades and poor mental health, based on the Canadian Journal of School Psychology and the College of Education. Currently, if students are on academic probation, there's an ongoing log in which all of a student's teachers contact them 1 to 2 times a week, collecting up to 12 contacts a week. If teachers do not get contact, they'll be logged to a social worker or liaison, and they will attempt to contact the student's parents. If no contact is reached, there will be a home visit. This is for academic purposes. Now imagine if this were implemented for mental health purposes. If we ask students, would you benefit from having someone call you once a week? Would you appreciate having a space to talk to other students? Imagine we ask students, would you benefit if someone called your parents and checked up on you? Imagine we ask students what they need for their mental health. Now, it is no question that we have a substance abuse issue amongst our generation. Parents, teachers, health experts are all scrambling to tackle the epidemic of vaping. But we are saying that this problem at its root is a mental health issue. The Journal of the American Medical Association aims to take a broader look at the link between vaping and depression. The study surveyed almost 1 million Americans and asked them about their e-cigarette use and their history of major depression. The results showed a significant correlation. Similarly, Anne Clint's psychiatry credits those who use e-cigarettes were significantly more likely to have mental health histories of ADHD, PTSD, gambling disorder, and anxiety, reports of low self-esteem, and endorsed traits of impulsivity. The Access Substance Abuse Program is supportive of our initiative to include mental health education in the correlation that e-cigarette users were found to be more than twice as likely to have been diagnosed with depression. Another goal is to increase partnerships with community organizations to provide increased learning opportunities with stakeholders. 2 states, Virginia and New York, have added mental health education to their curriculum. Increasing a partnership with Access will directly increase learning opportunities for students by teaching them proper mental health help. Awareness is one step of the process, but we've also composited solutions in order to make our school environments the best, safest, and most capable environment it could be.
Because right now, mental health is more important than academics. With this tool, counselors will be able to focus their time from scheduling students' classes to nurturing students' mental health.
With student check-ins, we can focus on students' emotional health and well-being rather than what classes they're taking or discuss what their career goals are.
The effects of this will elongate to success in years to come. A national study of more than 11,000 students in Chile found that mental health in first grade, as assessed with brief standardized screens, was one of the strongest predictors of performance on national achievement tests of language, mathematics, and science 3 years later.
With funds scarce, we have created a plan to ensure the costs remain minimum, and since no outside hire is required, since counselors are already certified to speak to students in regards to student check-ins, the only cost would be the scheduling program itself. While the MDE model is free, it will actually cost us in the long run. Our needs since the past 20 years have changed. The Michigan model for health curriculum is not what is needed now. It is the outdated status quo. Like in math, language arts, science, and other subjects, a curriculum surrounding health, specifically mental health, should be applied to be taught and not simply uttered. It will cost us $40,978 to implement a computerized scheduling program for all 6 through 12 students in Dearborn Public Schools. But it will only cost us $22,512 to implement it in a school the size of Fortson if we pilot it there. This will actually save us $34,498 from hiring another counselor.
Through our work and research, we have attracted many supporters in our community. Access has generously donated their time and volunteers with mental health education to further our initiative. When counselors meet with their students and they feel that the student needs more support, they will be sent over to a trained Access staff to provide that support. And parents who think their student need that support now can utilize that partnership as soon as they would like with their support and many other community workers. With a background in mental health, students will be nourished and continue to grow. While the district has collaborated with organizations in the community, my peers' experience and I have not been the most impactful when it comes to those coordinations. In my freshman year health class, a lot of these issues were presented on substance abuse, alcohol, tobacco, and impacts on the brain, social, emotional, and academic, how to deal with anxiety, depression, PTSD, and other mental issues. Were simply uttered and not taught. These organizations were not utilized in a way that changed my behavior or state of mind for my peers and I, in any way that I observed.
Restorative practice trainings through the district for our teachers and ancillary staff would be implemented district-wide. We want this to be required for all staff. We recognize that not all staff's comfort allow them to talk to students about their feelings, but simply training teachers on restorative practices allows them to understand that students are multidimensional people with reasons backing their actions, that a child's actions are due to their past or current and or their mental health, so that the students are not judged quickly based on their grades or behavior. There was a report of an 84% drop in suspensions for 6th graders during the first year of restorative practice implementation in a Texas school. Why? A team of researchers in 2016 concluded that teachers can develop an empathetic mindset about discipline and that these mindsets can directly affect student suspension rates. And now, more than ever, we need that empathetic mindset. My own experiences with restorative practices has changed the way I communicate. I learned and realized we need to express our fundamental universal feelings when wanting to restore harm with friendships, teachers, parents, and whomever. I need to communicate to transcend language, age, or nationality. And it wasn't a singular moment, but I began to take responsibility for my actions. I began to apologize more freely and communicated the way I felt without shame.
The district is incorporating classroom time dedicated to SEL. We believe 5 to 15 minutes should be used to reflect and discuss what we personally need to do to close our screens and be productive. Setting and living your intentions allows you to focus on who you are in the moment, to recognize and live your values, and to raise your emotional energy, which in turn raises your physical energy. Focusing on a goal illustrates what we don't have. It leads to negative thinking and a sense of failure. Giving an emphasis to intention sets the tone for the day and can lead to not only success, but happiness. The short answer is we need mental health resources. We need support in schools, or else who knows what the future might hold. We need to pilot a scheduling program in Fortson, and that way counselors can put their educational background in mental health to good use.
We need an available list of resources that students can utilize so we don't have an instance in which one of my friends was roaming the halls of Fortson looking for someone to help her, all while going through an anxiety attack. And when she finally did find somebody, she'd be sent to someone else 3 different times. We need to ask students and parents if they think they or their student needs mental health resources now. We need student check-ins in order to sustain a healthier, more successful school environment. We need to further discuss a possible introduction of mental health curriculum to teach students and teachers how to address mental health concerns or social emotional learning. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you.
Great job. It was a very great job. So thank you, Zainab, Jude, and Hannah. Before we get to questions, I'm going to have Dr. Maleko
Can
follow
I,
up.
Yeah, I think we have Dr. Sweden wanted to make some comments too.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Dr. Sweden. I'm sorry.
yeah, first of all, I'm very proud of the students. I hadn't seen their presentation. And so this is absolutely 100% student-led. And the students that were on, were part of the SEL committee. I'm glad they brought up some of the things that they brought up, but there are some things that are already in place that they may not be aware of in the district. I know Zainab mentioned that we wanted to give our students an extensive list of where to go for help. And at today's SEL subcommittee meeting, we put together a very long list of resources that we're going to make available to teachers and students and parents so that if there's a need. In terms, I know that restorative practices was mentioned. So the district right now has 10 staff members who are qualified to train students and staff. I can tell you that myself and Tara Haddad, who's now at the college, we trained a group of students at Etzel on restorative practices to help them work with their peers. And so I would love to, for us to do more of that, and we do have the resources to do more of that. The other thing about the students mentioned about wanting to have more mental health resources available at the school. I just want to share with the students that Mike Saley put a group together just this past few weeks where we are in conversation with EverFi, and they have a free program that I actually spent some time on today reviewing, and it went through all the mental health issues that some of the students discussed. And it's a program where students have to spend time with it, teachers spend time with it. There's a pre and post survey that's taken, and it really is very involved. And it's free because it's supported by organizations like, in each community, organizations take that up and support it. So in our community, I think it's the Lions organization, I think United Way. I can't remember all of them. But anyways, so students, we hear you, and we are really trying to do what we can to support your needs. And I know we're not doing enough. We absolutely are not doing enough, and we want to do more. And I love that you guys are passionate and are in pushing us to do more. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. Swayden. I also love the fact how they connected this issue to our strategic plan, so good job there. Dr. Maleko, did you?
Yeah,
go ahead?
I'll make a few, and I have Mike Asaley's actually here too. I'm going to have him jump in, but I wanted to make a couple comments too. Again, appreciate our students. We know Zainab from our advisory council, and we want to listen to our students. That's who we are here in Dearborn. When we had our committee for the reopening, guess what? We had students, strategic plan students. And I appreciate the work that the 3 students did, and they put a lot of research into it. I know they reached out to me, they reached out to you, and we were like, okay, we want to give a forum for these important issues with mental health. We can always make improvements, but I also know we've done some things with trauma-informed learning. I'm going to have Mr. Saley comment. The other thing I would say is this. We would love to hire more counselors and social workers. We actually had a CPI team that studied this several years ago. The issue is the budget. And so we actually need, more appropriate levels of funding from the state and the federal. Now, we know we're in COVID-19 right now, but, when that budget number was coming out, we were looking at different funding sources that have been cut over time. And, it's too bad that the January budget forecast that we had from the governor was going to bring some of those resources. One of the things that I did, and although the numbers don't look great, we did add counselors several years ago, and we added lots of social workers as well, and we continue to add social workers. So we hear the need, and there's some great social workers like Dr. Swayden and others in the district. And we also know, there's going to be individual students that have different experiences, and we ask them, to reach out, to their whether it be their principal or someone if they feel like they're not being serviced. But I also just got to say that I've worked with some very high-quality counselors and social workers, so we know when we get in, we can always improve and do better, and when we hear from our students, that's what we want to do, and we will do that. But I will say one of the problems we have with this whole thing is the budget, and it comes down to being able to staff it. Again, we've added, staffing and counselors and social workers, and we also, as you're aware, have you know, as we look at mental health and other things, we have our graduation interventionists in the high schools as well that provide support for our students. In fact, we've presented on that nationally at conferences and at state conferences. Some of the trustees were part of that. I know Trustee Lane last year. And one of the things they do is they really reach out to those students. A lot of them were students that were suffering, and we had their testimonials of, both with counselors and with social workers, but testimonials of challenges they went through. And they had, and maybe it's something we may want to bring back here, but they talked about how they really had an impact. So again, we understand that as a staff, we want to improve. We are listening to all of you. We take it very seriously. We appreciate you presenting. Mike, do you want to jump in, Mr. Saley, and comment on some of the trauma-informed training that you've been doing?
Absolutely, and I second a lot of what both President Barry and Dr. Maleko, you said. Great presentation by the students, truly student-led. I actually had the opportunity to speak to Zainab a couple times over the week, so it was actually a privilege and honor. But yeah, we understand there is some more work to be done. What we are looking at doing right now is becoming a trauma-informed district, and how we do that is with a district our size, is we need to develop trainers. And what we're looking at right now is a train-the-trainer model. Last year, I know Ms. Shannon Peterson, along with Dr. Bazzy Gates and some other members of the Dearborn Public Schools community actually started to go through some of the trainings, but unfortunately they were cut short due to COVID. Well, this year, what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna bring the trainings to Dearborn. And our plan is hopefully to train over 100 staff members in trauma-informed instruction, who in turn, hopefully will train a lot of the staff at the individual buildings as well. In addition, I do want to comment about restorative practices. I saw that it was mentioned within your presentation. When I first came into special ed as a coordinator, we actually, our primary focus, and it still is, was restorative practice. And what we were able to do was we actually were able to, like Dr. Swiden said, train 10 people within the district who became trainers in restorative practice. And in turn, we trained administrators, we trained social workers, we trained teachers on truly developing that restorative culture within our school district. And as far as the discipline data is, you're absolutely correct. In fact, when we were really heavily involved within the restorative practices, we would develop some data, and it did show those similar trends to kind of what you spoke about in Texas. I don't know if it decreased our discipline by 80+%, but we did definitely see a decrease within some of the, some of our schools that were implementing the restorative practice, so on and so forth. In addition, with social workers, we're extremely thankful for them. We know they're sometimes the heartbeat of a school building. They're working with so much, and we are very grateful that not only with Dr. Maleko, but also the board support, we have been able to add additional social workers over the last few years since I've been here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions?
If I may say something to
Go ahead.
in response to the money issue, the issue we had with the funds being scarce and such. We included in our presentation that the program itself would require money. This way, counselors who actually have an education in mental health, that way you don't need to get any outside hires. They're already in the school. They have an education in mental health, and we just feel that they're not putting it to good use. They're more busy putting students into classes, sorting them, and we researched a program that would instead, it would be a computerized program that would schedule the students instead, freeing up counselors. And in the end, it would actually save us money because instead of hiring an outside hire. So I just felt like I needed to reiterate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and instead of putting all the burden on social workers like we do in the past, we have access that's providing all their social workers to us. They generously offered this, and right now that is what we need. Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Sweden. I know you said.
So two things. Access has always supported the schools, and they actually have had people come into some of our buildings and provide support. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't because of confidentiality and just so many things behind it, but we appreciate partnering with them. And I think our counselors do so much. I can just tell you as a parent of 4 and my kids are in college, if I left it up to them to choose what classes they would take, I'm not sure they would find the success that they found. It was important for them to be able to sit with their counselor, for their counselor to know where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, and direct them in terms of college or job, help them through that. So I know our counselors do way more than just pick classes and put them in the computer. And I know you're not selling them short. I know that you know that. It's just, I agree with you. It's such a complicated issue. And then I think for the social workers, I mean, I know firsthand how much running around they do, not just during the school day, but you know, we're in conversation after school, on the weekends, concerns about students, visiting students' homes. We did some stuff, I mean, I can tell you some stuff that I was involved with where with students who were absent, not for discipline reasons, but just weren't showing up. We called the home to find out what was going on. So there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scene that you may not be aware of, but what you're bringing are tremendous, tremendous points, and it's important that we stay focused on them and we do what we can. And like Mr. Saley said, I love that we're moving into a trauma-informed school and that we have someone already lined up to work with our teachers and staff and students. And I hope that this stays in the limelight, this issue.
Thank you, Dr. Swayden. I personally didn't hear that our students were questioning the counselors, so they were just reporting stats, and I think these are stats that we know. We'd like to do better in that department, but obviously, there's a money issue. I want to go to questions. We'll just start out with Trustee Thorpe, please.
One issue that was mentioned in the presentation was COVID. So because we are going to be starting the school year in an online format, and we don't know how long that'll last, we are going to have kids that are going to be socially isolated. What are we doing as a district to try to make sure that we're reaching out to kids from a mental health standpoint, since they might not be getting the group situations or that face-to-face interaction we normally would?
I'm going to let Mike comment, but I will say that it is built into our plan
Yeah.
that we submitted, and it's it's going to be part of the curriculum as well. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so actually, Trustee Thorpe, that's a great question. So part of the SEL committee's recommendation was the adaptation of a COVID-19 trauma screener. So our plan is to provide or at least administer this screener to all of our students in the district. And then, from the screener, what we would do is if we find that there are any situations or any students who need any additional support or help, we would definitely provide that moving forward. In addition, I think Dr. Swayden also spoke about Everfry, who's got an awesome SEL curriculum, who we actually implemented in some of our schools this year. Well, it's free to the entire district, and our plan is to hopefully implement some of this curriculum and embed it district-wide as well.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Trustee Moses?
The recommendations by the students are very evident. I think the administration should really take a look at this, especially the computerized check-in for the students. It seems like a great model that we need to look at, especially with schools that are heavily populated like Fordson and Dearborn as well. So I thank all the students for bringing all of these recommendations, and that we really need to look into those holes and fill them in, because mental health is real. It affects everyone, not just a segment of the population. It affects all students. And as it was said, if their mental health is a huge indicator of their academic success as well.
Can I just comment on?
Dr. Maleko, please.
Thank you, President Barry. Yeah, we'll definitely do that, and I'll ask Mr. Saley and Dr. Swayden to continue the dialogue. Secondly, Zainab is on my advisory council, so she'll have the ability to bring this up at any of our meetings, and we can dialogue that way. But I'm going to ask Mr. Saley as well to continue that dialogue, or his staff and Dr. Swayden and others. So thank you.
Dr. Maleko, you keep taking credit for Zainab being on your advisory committee. She's also one of our colleagues.
Yeah.
So remember, she's She represented the students at the board.
Oh, yeah,
meetings.
absolutely,
Yeah, I
yes,
just wanna
yes, for
bring that
sure.
to- We thank you for that.
She's very dedicated.
Are there any other questions?
think
I
that-
can't see the,
yeah. Trustee Petrikov.
trustee Petrikov, go ahead, please.
We know that there is a real stigma with mental health issues and substance abuse in any community. Was any of that taken into account when you talk about student check-ins, especially an overreaching kind of every high school student should have a check-in kind of thing, where you may have pushback from either a student or parents who are uncomfortable with that outreach when they don't feel that they don't want to acknowledge that there may be a problem with their student or are uncomfortable with the topic?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, yeah, you may have some that, do not want to come forward and get the support, but all we can do is be discreet, use discretion, the professional avenues with the social workers and the counselors, and try to convince them where needed to get help. The other thing we've done, as you're aware, is we've partnered with 4 different community, they mentioned Access, and we appreciate all of our partners, but we have other groups that we've partnered with for our drug prevention model that Ms. Charles headed up. And in some of those trainings, it is, you do have people coming forward and telling their personal stories of drug addiction and things and overcoming. And so I guess depending on the age of the student, depending on the parent, is we have to be discreet and try to counsel them and work with them. And I think that's where the social workers in our district are very good. Dr. Swiden being one of them, but many others. That's why the principals, everyone's always advocating for more counselors and social workers. And why? It's because of the work they do. Every year, I know the principals are saying, well, I need more social workers. It's one of those positions that, because of the challenges that we're facing, I think you mentioned this COVID situation, whether it be drugs or other things, there's just a great need for more support in those areas. So, Trustee Petlicoff, it's a challenge, yes, and I think the organizations, those individuals are trained, and so that's why Dr. Bazzi Gates and Ms. Charles, specific to substance abuse, have been kind of the individuals that have been taking the lead for the school district, working with those organizations.
Thank you. Zainab, did you want to follow up on trustee Petrikov's question? Go ahead. It's
Yeah,
Jude, I
Hannah's
believe. Go
gonna
ahead. Somebody's raising their hand, so go ahead.
Can I?
Please, yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to follow up on that question. So last year I was assigned a social worker, and I didn't have that personal connection with my social worker, so it was very hard to actually fix my situation. And so I would push back. So these weekly check-ins with the students with the counselors, it's just kind of like building a relationship, and with those restorative practices, so you actually have that relationship and you'll ease into talking about your struggles. So I hope I can that answered your question.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and another thing I want to add on to that, thank you, Hannah, is if we have student check-ins that are normalized, basically if someone comes up to lunch and says, oh, why did you miss third hour? And then the student would say, oh, I was just with my counselor. It's something that's not stigmatized. And that way students can more freely express themselves without feeling shame or afraid of what their peers are gonna say. And like in Hannah's case, when parents know it's with the school, they're comforted, at least in our community. I feel like my mom would feel comfort if she knows that it's with the school. And when we bring Access to the school, it'd be that level of comfort. Thank you.
Thank you, Zainab. And Hannah, thank you for sharing your experience with us. To my colleagues, is there any other questions? If there are, just go ahead and speak.
I just wanted
because
to
I can't see
say
the
a
screen.
couple of things.
Trustee McDonald, go
A
ahead.
lot of what my thoughts were have already been mentioned. But this has been really a hot topic in a lot of the sessions that I've been to the last few years when going to conventions and those kind of things. It is top of mind. It's very important. I want to thank the ladies for their work in the student-led initiative. I can tell they're passionate about this, and this is a very important key issue. I do believe the district is doing a lot to help students with mental health issues, but there's always more that we can do, as Dr. Sedan said. The one thing I just want to just throw out there, all of our students need to also look out for each other. Look out for your friends, look out for your siblings, look out for people in your circle, because a lot of times students are not comfortable bringing these issues to an adult anyway. So sometimes you are the best advocate for someone that you know personally. Again, whether it's a sibling or a sister or a friend or whatever, because I know so often students are not comfortable talking to adults, especially about private issues. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes you might be the lifeline to someone who needs some help, and you might be the ear that they need. And I'm not asking you to take on their mental issues yourself, but sometimes just to be a friend, just to hear them out, just to offer a hand or an ear, that can make a lot of difference in someone's life who's struggling. Excellent job, ladies.
Thank you, Trustee
We
McDonald.
did,
Anybody else?
I believe we did,
Go ahead, Hannah.
sorry.
Go ahead, Hannah.
I believe we did have a peer I believe we did have a peer mediator where peer, like, if there was a problem, you'd have two students come and they would discuss their problems. And that program cut short at Fordson, I believe. So if we could bring that back, yeah, maybe that could help. I just wanted to clear that up.
Good, thank you. Unless there's any
And
other
we have
questions, I'll go
tried,
ahead and wrap up.
sorry.
Zainab and her team, you did a wonderful job. I'm gonna quote Dr. Soydan, "We hear you. We do hear you. You got the attention of the board, the administration. Please follow up, and I know Dr. Maleka will follow up with you. So, you know what, to step up to the plate, as I believe you're all three seniors, right? And do a presentation like you just did. We're gonna go ahead and applaud you and thank you very much. And good luck this year.
Yeah.
Thank you,
And I just
ladies.
want to add that they're putting a video together for all the staff. And they mentioned today at our subcommittee meeting, they're putting a video together to stress the point of how important SEL is and for people to take notice of it. It'll be a 2-minute video, so look out for it.
Looking
Good
forward
work,
to it.
girls.
Thank you. Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Citizens wishing to address the board on agenda and non-agenda items for action can complete a blue card in person at the Administrative Service Center in the Frank Franchi Boardroom, or they can complete a virtual blue card that will be posted at noon Monday, August 24th, 2020 on the district's news website. Cards, forms received by 7:10 will be read by the board secretary. The board may not be in a position to respond to non-agenda items. Therefore, speakers should not anticipate an immediate response to their comments or questions. For the benefit of all concerned, do not mention the names of students or school district employees. Please keep your comments as brief as possible. The board president reserves the right to limit times. We have one card, thankfully, today, which is on a non-agenda item for action, and I will read that now. That card is from Mr. Subhi Bezi. He said, "I would like clarification on whether the Dearborn School playgrounds are city property or district property. In this case, I am specifically reaching out in regards to McDonald School. McDonald's playground has become a problem for the surrounding neighborhoods. Dearborn police have been called due to the extreme noise levels and messes left behind. Dearborn police said there was nothing they could do about it. Multiple times we have seen children run under the jungle gym and slides to urinate. This can potentially become a serious health hazard. It was then by multiple residents of the neighborhood taken to Susan DeBaja, as well as Adnan Modni, hoping for a solution. Thus far, the only change we have seen is a new sign posted saying, park closed from sunset to sunrise. which has not made any difference whatsoever. We're bringing this complaint to you, the Dearborn Board of Education, hoping something can be done about this.
Did you want to say anything?
Sure, I can come.
I can if you want. Go ahead.
Or it's up to you.
Go ahead.
Okay. So we are aware of the situation, and I was on an email with President DeBaja and Chief Haddad and others, and Dr. Mugni, and we've also had Mark Andrews involved. And we made sure that we have additional staff out there cleaning when we see, things that are going on. The unfortunate thing is we don't have staff that are there all the time into the evening, and we made a decision that we were going to keep our playgrounds open for the community. So we ask, we do our best to try to ensure when we're there to make sure that obviously if our students and others are following the rules, and then, if someone was doing something illegal, I mean, you'd have to, contact authorities. Because like I said, they're not on, we don't have the ability to be there monitoring it all night. Having said that, we respect the community, and, we want to help, we want to try to help, and we want to do our best and work with people, and we would ask the community to help us. So one of the things when we made the decision to open it in a COVID situation is to, follow the rules like we are. We're following the rules, we're social distancing, those kind of things, and my understanding is that was some of the concern. So we need people to do the right thing and work together, and maybe it's something for the neighborhood. I know Trustee Thorpe, you and I talked, but maybe even the neighborhood associations to get involved in their neighborhood in trying to make a change. And again, we'll be there with them from administration, helping as much as we can, and we'll definitely do our best to try to make change. And I can tell you our staff has already intervened, not just the signs, but with the cleaning and other things that are going on within those playgrounds.
To answer the question is, yes, those playgrounds are Dearborn Public Schools property. So that was good, that was the right information, I believe President DeBaja told the neighbors. But no, if there's illegal activities going on at the playground or in the streets or at a city park, you definitely should call the police. If the police is telling you that there's nothing they can do, if there's something going on there, if somebody's, I guess the word urinating, no, the police should be able to do something. Cleaning the playground, we have 33 buildings, playgrounds, that we have people that constantly clean the playgrounds. I just met with a friend of mine at one of the city parks, and it was not in good shape, but the next day, I walked over there because I usually walk around the track, and it was cleaned up. So it was the city's responsibility to clean that park. It is our responsibility, Dearborn Public Schools, to maintain and keep those parks clean. But if there is any illegal activity going on that the neighborhoods are seeing, yeah, by all means, call the police department. The other thing is, since it's McDonald School, I am aware that there's a strong neighborhood association in the area. So I will reach out to one of their officers and to see what is it that, what is it that they can help out with, since it seems to be an isolated playground that we're talking about that it keeps coming up. So I think I didn't catch the name, Madam Secretary.
President Barry?
I didn't catch the name of the person who brought the card. You muted. Mr. Bazzi, okay, Mr. Bazzi, yeah, thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. Did you have something?
Yeah.
Trustee Thorpe, please.
President
Two-
Barry, can I just add what?
Go ahead, Trustee Petrikov.
There is a law on Dearborn's books called the Parental Responsibility Law. And the police department, if they're called and it's a minor child that is acting disrespectfully in the community, they can take that child back home, and the parent themselves can receive a ticket. So I would like to put it out there to all parents to pay attention to what their children are doing when they leave the home, that they do have a legal obligation to monitor their children's behavior, and to make sure that they understand that they have a responsibility to ensure that they're not acting in a manner that requires police intervention in the first place.
Sure, thank you. Trustee Thorpe?
one of the strengths of Dearborn is the neighborhoods. And any of us, we're probably always looking out for our neighbors' houses as well as ours if they're not around. So we would hope that the people that live closest to our buildings are keeping an eye on them and letting us know, or letting the police know if there's something that's going on that needs attention. Also, I believe that our city relations committee has been talking with the city as we are continuing to add more and more surveillance cameras to our properties. And maybe at some point that can also help us try to identify if there are repeat problems at some of our buildings.
Yeah, thank you. You know what, I'd like to make a follow-up with a comment too, that a couple weeks ago, I drove by probably 6 to 8 of our playgrounds, very clean. Our maintenance people do a great job. Our children, some with parents, some without, we're enjoying the parks. So this is a very isolated incident. We will get to it, even if we have to, I'll talk to Dr. Maleko after the meeting if we have to do something a little extra. Just it seems like that's the only place that's happening, but that's the beauty of Dearborn, our parks, our pools, our playgrounds. So we don't want to get to the point where we start shutting down playgrounds and shutting down, city parks and city pools just because you might have, maybe a couple kids that are, troublemakers. But like Trustee Petrikov said, yeah, if your kids aren't behaving, yeah, you will get called out by the police, or if we find out, if Dr. Mugni finds out, recognize any students, we will reach out to the parents and do our part. So, thank you.
One comment
Dr.
to add.
Maleko, go ahead.
I just spoke to Mr. Wall, and one thing we can do, which we have routine checks that are going on right now across the district. We don't have the funding and the ability to have security officers 24/7 at every location, but what we can do, and we did this during the shutdown, and we continue to do checks at every building. So we can do extra checks at McDonald, and maybe that will help too, to have an extra present. Again, it wouldn't be 24/7, but, our security companies can go and just make sure and check out what's going on over there and maybe help and work with the police. So that's another thing. I just spoke to Mr. Wall.
Yeah, I can tell you that when I did take that drive a couple weeks ago, at 2 different locations, I did see one of our security, I believe those trucks, those little trucks. I spoke to one of them, and, yeah, she explained to me what she was doing there. So, yeah, we'll keep doing our part. So, thank you, Mr. Bazey. Let's see, where are we at here? That, you said there was
Action
only one,
items?
right? That was the only one? So we'll go ahead to the
Yes.
next item, please, then.
That's all. Action items, are there any agenda items on this agenda which board members or the superintendent wish to discuss and vote on separately? If there are, we will exclude these from the motion below, and I see trustee Petchlokoff raising her hand.
Trustee Petchakov?
I only have, I don't need it polled, but I do have a question on item 4.
Okay.
With the teletherapy.
Okay,
Hopefully, Mr. Bailey hasn't left the building.
okay. Are there any more?
I have a question about 7.
Okay, we'll wait till 4 and 7. Okay. Madam Secretary, go ahead, please.
I would just like to note that there are 3 supplements, 13, 14, and 15. So, at this time, move that action items numbered 1 through 15 be approved as recommended in this agenda.
So moved?
So moved. Support.
So the motion was moved by trustee McDonald, supported by trustee Petchakov. We'll go right ahead to trustee Petchakov regarding number 4.
Dr. Maleko, I don't know if Mr. Saley is still available or not. So if he's not, possibly you could answer the question. The teletherapy program that we're going to be purchasing, what therapies does this utilize?
I believe Mr. Saley's
Does
there. I'm going to ask him
anybody
to
know?
jump in if he could. He's there. Can you repeat that question, trustee Petchakov?
While we're waiting for him, I would like to know that I've heard from other people in other districts.
Jump in if he could.
Oh, there's a
He's there. What therapies does this cover? What types of therapy does this teletherapy cover?
Okay, greeting, Ms. Petchkov. So basically what Presence Learning involves is that one, it provides both a HIPAA and FERPA compliant video conferencing availabilities. In addition, it's going to provide our staff with teletherapy and training with school social work services, occupational therapy services, and speech and language pathology services. There's also an aspect into it to where it also provides training for some of our psychologists and some of our teachers to actually do cognitive testing for special education through a distance. Now, we've decided that we're not going to train every single school psychologist in the ability to do some of the testing through a distance. Our psychologists actually came together a couple of weeks ago and felt it would be best to kind of do the in-person testing just for validity purposes. And they just kind of felt more comfortable going in that specific route. It also provides, actually, believe it or not, some great training for our parents. And the training comes in both English and Arabic as well.
Does there need to be anything other than a laptop in the family home in order to utilize this?
No, for the specific therapy purposes, no. They would just need they would need a Chromebook or something along those lines. And they would be fine, which we would definitely apply to family. We would provide to families if they need it.
Right, and we're doing that for everybody. I just want to make
Yes.
sure that there isn't some kind of therapies that require additional support for the families in order to take advantage of this particular program.
No, that's why we're really, really excited, and we're excited to what it's going to do for not only our student population, but the support it's going to provide our staff as well.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Dr. Mead, is that a thumbs up, or did you have a question?
No, I'm just happy with what,
Okay, so I want to make sure. So are there any other questions on this action item? If not, we'll go to trustee
I would just
Moses.
like to make a quick note.
Go ahead, trustee Lane.
I have heard from people in other districts around the country that there is a problem already in students showing up for classes. So I have a lot of concerns about the people that have the greatest need actually not being there for services and for classes. That's going to be something, the students have talked about this and referenced it a little bit, but it's going to be a big problem in the next year.
Thank you. We'll go ahead to trustee Moses regarding action item number 7.
Yeah, I'd like to know quickly why we're waiting 6 months for this bid. Is it taking so much time? Is it because of the complexity?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
We actually bid this out to break down the services. This includes our key card access, our security systems, our burglar alarm, and our fire system. So there's 4 large projects that this include. Now, we've been with this company for 10 years, over 10 years. And so what we're finding now to rebid it, we rebid it once and we only had 2 vendors bid. And we figured with this large of a project, we could not bring that to the board appropriately for that kind of a dollar value. Because this project itself is, well over $1 million when you add all 4 of those together. Because this handles the installation and handles the monitoring and repair. So it's a large project and there's a lot of requirements. So to kind of, when we look at this bid, we're going to probably break this down from one vendor into multiple vendors. And once we kind of get through the evaluation of the bid, which is very complex, that eventually we'll have to actually transition to the new vendor. So this is not something that can get done in 1 month. So that's why we asked for the 4 to 5 month extension, so we can get through the process and have a nice, clean conversion and not try to struggle trying to cut ties with a company and kind of go another way if that's the case. They may be the successful vendor, we don't know yet. The bids are being evaluated right now.
So this is really more of an up to 6 months. You're thinking that would be the
Correct.
longest amount
Yeah,
of time,
if we
but
get
it
done
could be.
sooner, especially with students not in the building as much, we might be able to convert faster. But we don't want to come back to every month and say we need another month and the other. So we figure at least a 4 month extension is what we're going to at least to make sure we get through this.
Good. Trustee Moses, you good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Are there
Thank
any
you.
other questions on any of the action items? I can't see the screen, so if there are, just jump in.
No.
If not,
No.
then, if there are any more questions, we'll just go ahead, Madam Secretary, have a roll call vote on the motion?
Lane, yes. McDonald?
Yes?
Mead?
Yes.
Mosa?
Yes.
Petchlokoff? Thorpe?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you. Please attach unanimous roll call vote to an affirmative. Madam Secretary, can we have the summary of agenda action items?
Summary of agenda action items. Number 1, approval of warrants. Number 2, approval of blanket order per board report 20-11. Number 3, approval of contract communities in schools, CIS. Number 4, approval of contract to Presence Learning, Inc. Number 5, approval of contract to Kachi Soccer LLC. Number 6, approval of contract to Green Dream International. Number 7, approval of contract to JCI, which is Johnson Controls. Numbers 8 through 10, approval of non-instructional and instructional personnel items for P12. Number 11, approval of 2020 summer graduates. Yippee. Number 12, approval of donations. Number 13, appointment of Principal Mohammed Abdel Fattah, Snow Elementary. Number 14, approval of Assistant Principal Mrs. Mary Timp to Henry Ford Elementary. Number 15, approval of Coordinator 1 Special Education, Walanda Taylor.
I think the least we can do is applaud our summer graduates. Congratulations, summer graduates. I'll turn it over to Dr. Maleko. I believe he has a few introductions.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much, President Barry. So I believe we have Walanda Taylor, who is on the screen. I'm going to ask her to come in and make a few comments. We want to congratulate her on her appointment. If we can show a round of applause for her. And I'll see if she can come and make a couple comments.
I see her, yeah.
Oh, is she in there? This position is being funded by the Act 18 special education out of the county, and so it's not actually coming to the general fund, but it's definitely needed given where we are. We just heard about all the trauma-informed learning and all the things going on, so we're very excited to have Walanda.
Good evening to all of the board members in Dearborn Public Schools. This is a great honor and a great opportunity. I take it and I come with much humility. I'm passionate and I'm excited about what this year to bring, and I'm really happy about joining such a great special education team.
Thank you and welcome aboard.
Thank you. So next we
Thank you.
have, oh, great, wonderful, Walanda. We have Miss Mary Timp, the assistant principal at Henry Ford. If we can show appreciation for her as she gets on and congratulate her. Mary and I got hired together as teachers at Salina many years ago.
We did.
Go ahead, Mary, I'll let you make a few comments.
I would like to thank Dr. Maleko, the entire board, and all of my many, many wonderful mentors that I have in the district. Everybody's been very supportive, and I'm very happy to be joining Henry Ford. I can't wait.
Congratulations.
You're welcome. Congratulations.
And last, we have Mohammed Abdel Fattah. He is the principal of Snow. I do want to mention that he does not start until October 1. This was the plan for a phase-in with the COVID situation. And so we have Ms. Al-Qadri starting in Human Resources on October 1, and we did it in a budget savings manner through reductions of different positions in HR. But we deliberately wanted to give a transition for him, working with Ms. Al-Qadri, and also where he's going to be leaving his school at Woodward. So, Mohammed, congratulations. Let's give him a big round of applause, too. And I'll let him make a few comments. Like Ms. Iman Ahmed, last year, I'm able to say that I've actually hired him 3 times as a teacher, assistant principal, and now a principal, so proud of that.
Thank you, Dr. Maleko, members of the board. Thank you for entrusting me, and thank you for your confidence you've invested in me. Really excited to be the next principal at Snow Elementary. It's an honor to be part of such a great organization. As a resident at Dearborn, former student, teacher, administrator, and now parent of 2 that are heading on a similar path, I look forward to building the positive relationships at Snow Elementary. I live in that community. I am looking forward to this new chapter in my career, and thank you for the opportunity.
Congratulations, Hamad.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. Congratulations to the 3 of you.
Next item, please.
There are no discussion items, so the next item will be Board of Education business, acknowledgement of correspondence.
Next item, please.
Board member committee and organization reports.
I don't believe we have any.
Trustee Petchikoff is going to report for the pre-audit at the college.
Okay, yeah, it's. Go ahead, trustee Petchikoff.
Yeah, thank you. While we don't normally try to mix college and P12, we did it at the last meeting for the college, so it's only a fair trade. We decided we wanted to just let everybody know that we did have a pre-audit committee meeting today, and the reason we wanted to report it out today was because there's some time-sensitive opportunities. The Plant Moran is our audit organization, and they laid out the scope and the calendar for their audit procedures, where they do a risk assessment of our financial statement, and they don't do a deep dive, but rather do a randomized assessment of all of the components of a financial statement for the college, which is a routine yearly audit. That being said, if anybody has, I already sent the full board the contact information of the auditors. If anybody from the board has any specific issue that they would like looked at, please contact the auditors. And I believe it's been past practice for us to also share that information publicly on our web page for the college, so that if there's anybody in the college community who has a concern that they'd like to have a conversation with the auditors to investigate, this would be the time to do it.
Thank you. I believe that's it for reports. Next item, please.
Next item, board member superintendent commentary.
Again, I can't see, so if anybody out there has any comments, just go right ahead, please. Dr. Maliko, anything?
One thing I do just wanted to say again, congratulations to our summer graduates. And one thing I heard today on the news that was a little disturbing, and once again, it just proves that we don't know much about COVID, is that there is thought that we have the first case of a reinfection, and it may be of a different strain or a mutated strain of COVID that happened in Hong Kong. So I just want to say that I really stand by the decision that the board made for us to be cautious about what we're doing. There's just too much that we don't know and too much at stake. So again, we need the community's help to keep everything as contained as possible. So again, the 3 W's, I just want to enforce: wear your mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance, and let's all take care of each other.
Thank you. Dr. Maliko, do you have anything?
I would note, tagging on trustee McDonald's comment, that the shutdown of many universities has also reaffirmed to me that we can pretty much plan on behavior not always complying. And that was our concern, that everybody wouldn't follow the rules and that people might compromise. And that's been the case at a lot of universities. So I do also agree with trustee McDonald that we made the right decision to start slowly, start safely, start softly.
Go ahead, Dr. Maliko.
Thank you, President Barry. So I want to just mention, and I appreciate President Barry, he joined me this morning with Ms. Farage and Ms. Orani, where we welcomed our new staff, our teachers. It's the first time I told the teachers, I remember being there 24 years ago in their shoes, but I was not in a virtual online situation. So I want to thank President Barry for welcoming the staff And we're very excited that we don't have as many new staff as we normally do, but we're here, and we have great staff in Dearborn Public Schools. That's what I want to say, is that I want to just a message out to the community. We know we're going to have challenges ahead. We know there's stresses on families. We know there's stresses on staff, community members, board members. There's stresses on administration, superintendents. But it's okay. We're going to get through it together. We got a great community, and that's what I said today. And Trustee Barry, is that's why I've been in Dearborn Public Schools 25 years. I've never applied anywhere else. You know, this is a great community, and we have great people that do great things. Our teachers are going to step up. I know our community members. I talked about our parents that work with us. Now, will there be challenges? Is it going to be perfect? No. The reality is we're probably going to have some bumps as we move forward, but we are excited that our students are going to start, and we ask for patience of individuals, and we understand that there's going to be stressors on families. So all I ask is that we try to work together, because really we all want what is best for our students in Dearborn Public Schools. Of course, parents first and foremost for their children, but for me, I'm responsible for the 21,000 students, and I take that very seriously, as I know the board does. And I also want to say I appreciate the support of the Board of Education. And I believe President Cavaluna feels the same way, and I've mentioned this to President Barry and others, because these have been challenging times over the last 6 months. And without your support, we really wouldn't have got through it. I do feel supported. I do feel like I'm making decisions, and sometimes we can have disagreements in the community decisions, but you've got to make those tough decisions. And my decisions have been a little bit more directional with my team at times, and I know the board has backed it. And so we're going to have more months of difficult decisions ahead, and I know we're up for the challenge. I also know, as I said, that we're going to have some struggles. But we're going to get through it. I'm confident of that, and we have a great team. So I want to thank everyone in the entire school community, and looking forward to our students starting in that, you know, it's going to be a soft start. So not to get worried, but over the first couple of weeks, I said it, you know, we've got to just kind of relax with the first couple of weeks and understand we're going to learn some different things as we go forward, but we're there with you together. And I also want to thank all the parents, including staff members that are parents in the community.
I completely agree with Trustee Lane and Trustee McDonald's comments. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that we're doing the right thing moving forward. Dr. Maleko, are there going to be challenges? Yes, of course, and we also had that discussion earlier today. A week from today, we'll be opening up our schools. Are we going to run into things? And under normal circumstances, things come up the first day, the first week. So yes, there will be. So that the parents I spoke to today and the last few weeks, to staff members I spoke to, are we like 100% sure things are going to go as we planned the first day? Probably not. But we will learn from the first day, do better the second day, and moving forward, we will get it to the point where, you know, there's no doubt in my mind that our staff and our administrators are providing the best possible education to our students. So good luck to our students this year. Staff, we thank you for what you're doing. Parents, all we ask for is your patience the next couple of weeks, so thank you. Unless there's anything else, next item, please.
Requests for information and/or future agenda items.
Trustee Moses?
I have,
Go ahead, Trustee
Go ahead, Trustee McDonald.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Wall something, and I don't know if he wants to address it here or maybe in one of our smaller meetings. I know that there was just a revenue estimating conference recently, and I was wondering if there was any information, good or otherwise, he wanted to share with us.
He's coming up. There was, several notifications that came out today.
Yes, it was held today from 3 to about 4:30. It was good news. The economy is doing better than what they projected in May, which was good, because it reduced the shortfall that they estimated back from what we compared to last January when the governor started the whole, budgetary process. We're gonna get more information out tomorrow. The legislators, from what I hear, is like roughly about 40% better than it was back in May. But the numbers were hard to read on the screen because they were very fuzzy. They didn't have good technology at the state when they're presenting. So we'll get the graphs tomorrow, and it'll be in my board memo update this week to give you more clearer detail.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Wall. Trustee Moses?
Yeah, throughout the recommendations that came forward, and obviously us going virtually. What really keeps me up at night is special ed students, and how are they going to deal with learning virtually. I would like to get a report on how specifically we're handling students who have special ed, or a report even that is informational to the parents as far as the learning labs and how they're going to be conducted. So is that clear? Sure. Sure.
Thank you. Anybody else? Next item.
Maybe some of that, Dr. Maliko, some of that could inform the decision each month on whether we proceed with reopening or learning labs or in person or all of that. I mean, that feedback is going to be really important to us, the learning labs feedback.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Trustee Lane. Trustee Petrikov, do you have something to add, or just waving at me? Okay, thank you. Next item, please.
Future virtual and in-person meeting dates, Monday, September 14th, 2020, P12 Board of Education meeting, 7 p.m. at the Administrative Service Center in the Frank Franchi Boardroom, following the guidelines of the Governor's Executive Order, and virtually available live for viewing via YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and cable channel 19, or WOW channel 15. Monday, September 21st, 2020, HFC meeting, 7 p.m. via video conference, details to be determined. Check online at www.hfc. I thought that was HFCC.
See, yeah. That's a typo
That's a
there.
typo.
Yeah, okay, edu.edu/board meeting schedule.
Thank you very much, and we are adjourned.
Good night, everyone.